I knew as soon as we like put this playlist together fully, and I was like just looking over it, I was like, this is gonna be good.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like I've been addicted to this playlist. Honestly, this one and then the first recommendation roundup, I've been listening to them like back and forth. Like I've been listening to the first recommendation roundup at work
The first
and this one.
recommendation roundup was really great, except for the Logic album. I've honestly not listened to it since we did that episode. It's
Okay.
the only not bright spot on that entire episode, in my opinion.
Oh,
I was
oh man.
just looking back, man, and he's got a few new singles out too, but they're not his. They're much more singy. I don't know if you've even heard
Mm.
them. I didn't even send them to you.
Nah, I
He's
haven't.
got like two or
Haven't.
three singles out, and they're all like he's like turning into like some R&B type stuff, which is not. It's not bad. It's not bad. But
Well,
again, me you and me are like fans of like Logic when he like blew up and got big, and like it's not that at all. So it's just like every time I tune into a new Logic song, I really want that because that's what I like fell in love with, and it's just
mhm.
not that.
Yeah. The only thing I heard for sure was he did an acoustic version of an Ice Cube song, and Ice Cube's son was like, "Yo, don't ever in your life do this song again."
Welcome to After Listen, the music discovery and discussion podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Lee,
And on to every yo.
and it's time for another recommendation roundup episode.
Whoop
Today
whoop.
we'll be featuring some new songs and albums that we think you should definitely check out, as well as a few older hidden gems that we feel haven't really gotten the love they deserve. Of course, if you have any recommendations yourself, we'd love to hear it and maybe have it featured on a future episode. But as usual, before we get into the discussion, we have a few quick disclaimers. Number one, we respect everyone's opinion, regardless of how wrong or awful it may be. Number two, some songs featured may contain explicit lyrics. Actually, some songs definitely contain explicit lyrics in this episode, and we may refer to them during the discussion or may just slip out as we're talking about it. Number three, we are just talking about the music, not the artist's real life issues or any drama or whatever they're going through. Like, we might mention it briefly, but we're not going to be getting into any of that.
Yeah.
And finally, of course, we would love to feature the actual songs on the podcast, but we cannot at this time due to legal and copyright issues. But in the meantime, you can always listen to the music via the playlist link in the show notes and on the website. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into it. First song we got up is Sabotage by JoJo featuring CHIKA. This song came out in like 2019, I think. And JoJo is one of those most like she's super talented, super underrated, and she just got how can I put it? She just got the industry really just screwed her over, essentially, with her career and whatnot. Are you
Yeah,
familiar with
I
JoJo at
was about to
all?
say no. I'm not familiar with JoJo or Chica before this song. Really,
Okay. So back in the day, like early 2000s, she came out with a song called "Leave, Get Out," and it was like a little pop record. It was like "Leave right now, get out of here." It was like one of those kind of little songs or whatever.
okay. Well,
But
I feel like your version is better than the actual version is.
I
Just
mean,
on that little snippet, but
it kind of was, but ultimately, what had happened was, so she got signed to the same record label as Timbaland and Aaliyah, Black Ground Records, and she got signed when she was 12, and
oh,
when that song came out, she was 13.
oh,
So, but the thing is, though, listening to her voice on the record that she the Sabotage, her voice pretty much sounds the same. So she always had that full soulful voice, even at that young age. Ultimately, when she got signed in 2003, uh, the record label basically held her hostage. Ultimately, so
stupid record labels.
yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different time back in the day where the record labels was like the end all be all of your career. But
Yeah,
Blackground, I love them for introducing me to Timbaland and Aaliyah, but every person, every artist that I've heard that got signed to Blackground has had some issues. So
is that where JoJo was at? You said
yeah, yeah.
okay.
So she was signed with them, and basically what happened was with that, just like how Taylor Swift recently had to go back and like re-record all her music to get her rights back. JoJo did that long before she did because Black Girl was holding her catalog and holding her music hostage. So she was like, "Screw it, I'm just gonna start releasing mixtapes." And she re-recorded all her songs from when like she was like 12 and on up, so that way she can have access to her own masters, her own catalog, and so forth. And she had to sue them like multiple times. So she like sued them in 2009 and had to sue them in 2013 just to get off the label. And that like put her whole music career at a halt. So in 2019, when she came out with this song, I was like, okay, word. JoJo was back. She's free. She finally got out of her record label situation. And I just like the song in general. Like the bass is
It's
super
a good
good.
song.
It's a good song. And then like just the subject matter is like, okay, I like the twist on the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that she went out and got my homegirl Chica.
Which yeah, I like. I mean, I like if it was just JoJo, it would still be a good song. But
Mm-hmm.
Chica's part on it like elevates it for me. She definitely comes
Absolutely.
on and like adds like a lot to the song.
Absolutely, absolutely. So like when I saw that collaboration, I was like, Chica and JoJo? Word? Okay, I gotta check this out. So long story short with that, Chica and JoJo are label mates now. And
Oh,
Chica
okay,
actually blew up off of social media. So she was
Chica
freestyling
did.
on yeah, Chica did. Yeah. So she was freestyling on Twitter and IG and whatnot. And then some people picked up on her and was like, oh, cool. So she ended up getting signed through them. And then so her and JoJo were label mates. And she's from Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh, your hometown.
Yep, more or less. My home state.
Well, I do want to
Represent.
say, but just rewinding a little bit back to what you were talking about with the like re-releasing albums. I just
Hmm.
somewhat like I don't, a little bit early this year, maybe I watched a random. I was going down like the YouTube rabbit hole one night, and I came across this video. It was like an interview with Snoop Dogg, and then
Hmm.
I had like, because that's definitely not a new thing for artists to like re-release their music, and I never really thought about like why that was. I always just assumed it was like, oh, this was your popular songs, you're just easy cash grab, re-release stuff you've already made, you don't got to do much to it, blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
But no, in this interview, Snoop Dogg was talking like, no, like just what you were talking about. He's like, if you want to own your rights once you're away from the record label, you pretty much have to like re-release and like remaster or whatever, however you need to like package it to get the rights to your own music back. And
Yeah.
like it was a real eye opener for me. And like now that since I've watched that interview, I've like really paid attention and noticed like that happens so often with, I mean, from everyone from like small like kind of indie artists all the way up to like big mega artists like Snoop Dogg. Like record labels, man,
Yeah.
screw them.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. Like, I mean, well, thank goodness. Like, we live in a time now to where you don't need a record label to release your music. Like,
True.
for instance, what's the name? Chance the Rapper. He was never signed to a major record label at all, and he won a Grammy.
There's been several in the last like decade that have gotten very mainstream success without any record label assistance at all,
Exactly.
due to streaming and just, I mean, if you're able to like break into that like niche audience market, so to speak, and like just put in the work, yeah,
Yeah.
which is great. It's great for artists, great for listeners, bad for
Absolutely.
record labels. I mean, it's great all around.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, but yeah, so I'm just a big fan of that song, and I just want people to hear that. Number one, to hear that JoJo is still around. Chica is doing her thing. At one point, she did flirt with like retiring from music, saying that mental health and the trolls and all that stuff were getting her down. But at the time of this recording, she should have a new album coming out at the end of this month. So
Is
I'm
that
looking forward to checking
where
it out.
the song that you played for me off the air, "Truth or Dare" by Chica, is
Yep,
that that's off the new album?
that's off the new
Because
album that's
I'm
coming out.
definitely gonna be keeping my eyes out for that, because she has, in addition to like lyrically having good content, like she's not just, at least in the two songs I've heard of hers that she's in so far, it's got like some actual subject, like the lyrics have some meat to them, so it's not just like vapid, meaningless stuff. And
Hmm.
just her flow is like nice, like in that the Truth or Dare song you played for me, the chorus where it's like the two words comma two words, it's like that like short cadence,
Hmm.
like I don't, if it's done right, that gets me, like that
Yeah.
like really draws me in, just that like short punchy cadences.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be keeping my eye on that. Again, I was not super familiar with JoJo, but I really dug her voice on this, so I might go back, especially if she's sounded like that since she was 12 or 13. I mean, that's a pretty big like
Yeah,
mark of your talent, just like your innate, you're
exactly.
innately now naturally gifted, JoJo. So I'll have to go back and listen to maybe some of her older stuff. Do you know if she has anything? You said this was from like 2019. Does she have anything newer?
I think she does have a new album coming out, or a new album that did come out. I think it's called December Baby. I haven't checked it out yet. I think it's like a Christmas album or something that she came out with. But as far as I know, she's still working on music, and she's also an actress as well. So she's been during the time when she couldn't release music legally because of the label trouble. She was like doing different movies and Lifetime movies and things like that. So she's been around.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I had to look her up, but no, I totally recognize her now that I'm like looking at pictures of her.
Hmm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Well, cool. A little behind the scenes for the playlist. We each have 4 singles that we want to talk about, and then we each had one album we want to talk about. So we're doing the singles first, then we'll kind of deep dive into the albums a little bit at the end. So yeah, your second single was "Bus to Balkans" by Beats Antique.
Yes, sir.
This one caught me off guard a little bit. Like I should have just based on the name and
Hmm.
the name of the song and the name of the group. I should have had a rough idea of what I was getting into, but I was yeah. Do you want to talk about this a little bit? Because this song was a joy just with how different it was to my usual listening experience.
Sure. I can jump in and give you my origin story with this song. So, Beast Antique, I'm not super familiar with them, but they had one song off this album that I really love called "The Skeleton Key," and I wear that song out. That's in my constant rotation all the time. So, when I was at work listening to music while at work, sorry, redundant statement, but you get what I'm saying. So while I was listening to the album at work, I was listening to Skeleton Key, and then I was like, you know what, I'm listening to the whole album because I remember listening to the whole album, but I have it's been a while. This album came out in 2012, so it's definitely an older album. So, and I'm listening to it, and then I get to this song, and I'm listening to it. I'm doing my, I'm multitasking or whatever, and then I hear the tempo kind of speed up. I was like, is my computer skipping? Like, what's going on? And then I realized I was like, oh snap! So then so you just kind of just
It's the speed up, man, that
the
makes it so
speed up.
fun.
Yeah, so and then it speeds up, slow down, speed up, slow down. I was like, oh, this is fun. So I was like, you know what? I'm a weird dude. Why not? I'm gonna throw this on the playlist. People need to check them out. They're really dope. So like a little bit of the background on them. They're based out in Oakland, California. They are a trio,
Hmm.
and similar to Hybrid, two of them are dating, and one of them is still part of the group at least.
You mean
So
similar to old hybrid?
yeah, similar to old Hybrid. Yes, you passed the pop quiz. But
Yes,
ultimately,
my studying paid off.
yeah. But ultimately, the group was started by the belly dancer. So the belly dancer that I sent you in the video, she's actually in the
Okay.
group. So
Does she
so
do anything else besides the belly dancing?
no. So to my understanding, she does like, well, I guess she helps out with some of the composing. But to my understanding, she commissioned them to kind of generate some music for her dancing because like her dancing style is like a fusion of different sounds and stuff. So she was like, okay, you guys have a band, and like they all like grew up together, whatever. So she was like, yeah, let's. I can use y'all to make some new music for my dancing performance. Then they liked it so much they end up becoming a band ultimately. So and they go on tour and they collaborate, and just watching the live video on YouTube, I was like, next time they come to Atlanta, I might have to go check them out.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I will say the belly dancing. This is the only song I've never heard of Beats Antique before you put this on the playlist, so I don't know how well it fits for like their other songs. But for this one in particular, because like the title says, "Bust the Balkans," it has a very uh, not to also be redundant, but Balkan-esque sound, I guess. Like it has this like Eastern European like old timey sound, and like
Yeah.
I know belly dancers are like at this point in time really by no means like a new exotic thing, but they still have that like trace of exotic to it. Like
Hmm.
just I feel like at least for me personally, I feel like most other people probably as well have a connotation when you see a belly dancer of like, oh, this is from like the Middle East and places like just aren't America, right?
Hmm.
Um, say all that to say that it's a good merger of just like exotic sounding music, and again, this is just music. There's no vocals or anything, um, combined with the exotic performance of the belly dancing, this is a really good, like, entertaining mesh. I felt like I was very, I didn't even know there was like a live music video or anything. I was very excited that whenever you sent me that as I was watching, I was like, okay, I get this now, like more than I did already.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but like their album, they do feature singers and such, but like from my understanding, they just get outside people to collaborate,
Okay, got you.
whatever. And their sound is they call it like world fusion meets electronic dance a little bit.
I can see that's fair.
Yeah. So like they definitely have like a lot of like one of the members he goes by sidecar Tommy. He's like
What a name.
really really so but like he's a multi instrumentalist. So he does like violin, cello, drums, like they all just kind of just get together and all jam out. So and she does her dance and performing art. So it's definitely a 100% hippie situation.
Yeah, I did notice in the video with the belly dancer there was a white dude with dreads, and that just, I saw that and I was like, that fits right in with what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing. He
100%.
belongs in this crowd, is all I'm saying.
Dude, like there was another interview I tried to watch and I couldn't even get through it because the guy who was doing the interview was either high out of his mind and he could not sit still or he was on something and I was like, okay, I can't watch this. But but I totally get it. So I'm just like, this is definitely, I mean, I have never been to Burning Man, but this is definitely like a Burning Man kind of group
I've also never been to
situation.
Burning Man, but yeah, I can see that.
100%. So yeah, definitely give them a shot. And like I said, you'll end up low key belly dancing yourself because
Yeah,
I was trying to belly dance and I think I knocked over a table or something when I was doing mine. But you know, can't blame a man for trying.
I didn't even try.
All right, let's see. So next up on my wee little bitty list, I stumbled across this gem, the Hillbillies, Baby Kim and Kendrick Lamar. I didn't even know who Baby Keem was.
I'm familiar with the artist Baby Keem, but I've not really like listened. I've never purposefully listened to his stuff. But of course, I know you and me. I don't. I feel like it's intentional, but the song is not Baby Keem featuring Kendrick. It's Baby Keem and Kendrick,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes sense once you listen to the song because they both have like equal part. Like they're both ad libbing back and forth to each other. Like while one's rapping, the other one's doing the ad libs, and the vice versa. And then they're just
Mm-hmm.
like they got the call back or the call outs to each other, and they're just like taking turns on the verses. It's back very much back and forth. It's not really one's track with someone else hopping on for a single verse and then they're gone. Like no, it's the whole song is both of them, which you don't see that a ton. I feel like.
You don't, and it's definitely you definitely could tell this was a in person collaboration, so to
Oh
speak.
yeah,
Because nowadays, like people who collaborate with artists, they usually just okay, I'll send my verse in and be done with it. But you could tell that they actually
it has
work
that
together.
feel like they sat down in the studio and were like spitballing back and forth as they're like
Hmm.
both of them have like a pen and pad like out in front of them and they're like right just brainstorming their ideas and just going back, like it definitely has that vibe to it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely missed that. But in doing my quick little research on Baby King, apparently that's Kendrick Lamar's cousin.
Really.
Yeah. So and so he's been kind of relatively new-ish in the game, but
I
he's
knew
been.
he, yeah, I knew he wasn't like he's I knew he was relatively new. Is he on there? Do you know what label he's on?
So he was he's actually signed to Kendrick Lamar's new label,
Okay.
program
Oh wait,
language.
when did he come out with that? I thought he was on
Top Dog.
yeah, TDE.
Yeah.
He left
So
TDE.
yeah, he left TDE
Was
and
his most recent album part of the new?
I don't think so. I think his last album was his last album with TDE, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so after that last album, he went. I'm gonna look it up just to be,
Yeah, yeah,
because
for
that makes
sure.
me curious. Because as a little bit off topic, but as someone who is a huge Kendrick Lamar fan, I did not like his most recent album. It says the album serves as his first release under the creative collective PG Lang and his final project with TDE. So it was kind of, yeah, it was kind of a joint effort type thing. Sounds like
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. PG Lang is program language. That's the.
Okay, I was out of the loop on that, but that's cool.
Yep, yep. So, but yeah, so he signed to his cousin's label, and this is like a surprise joint that came out of nowhere. Like it was just kind of like boom, popped up. So I was just curious. I was like, Baby King. I don't know who that is. I know Kendrick. So I was like, okay, let me listen to this. And I've been wanting to show West Coast some more love
Right,
on the
right.
podcast. So I'm happy I came across this gem because I just been I love this song. I love this
It's a
song so
good song.
much.
I'm a little confused. I didn't understand the title based on the
Hmm.
lyric. I don't understand why it's called the Hillbillies. Maybe because like, are they talking about like being like in like the like Hollywood Hill? Like I didn't fully understand that.
That's the vibe I was getting, like the Hollywood Hills being out that way.
So it's like kind of tongue in cheek, the
Like,
Hillbillies. Okay,
yeah,
but no,
yeah.
I really dug it. Of course, I wasn't familiar with Baby Keem, but I might, especially if he's going to be doing more stuff with Kendrick, I'll definitely check him out going forward, just because he did pretty well for someone. I was like, I didn't really know much about him, had basically zero expectations for him coming in. I was like, okay, at least I can be confident Kendrick will be good. Maybe Baby Keem will be okay, and he was at least like on par. I feel like with Kendrick in this song, like they were about evenly matched,
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And like that beat got
and
me.
the beat
Like,
is really good. The
oh
beat
man,
is really great.
it's so good. It's so refreshing to hear rappers rap on something that's not typical sound or whatever. It brings me back to when hip hop was fun.
Yep.
So yeah, and I love the sample. I don't know if they were singing it or if that was a sample, but that line where it's like "Kings don't live in fear," I was like, love that line. So yep, definitely one of my favorite joints. And let's see, and the last one of my little recommendations for right now, uh, Hybrid, one of my other little favorite groups from overseas. They also released some new music. So they got a new song called Calling Your Name, excuse me. So that came out recently. I'm digging the production on it. Lyrically, I'm still trying to parse it a little bit, but I do love that her vocals definitely seem to kind of improve a little bit. Like she's showing more range
Yeah,
on this one.
that's what I was gonna say. Is I'm also in the similar boat as you. Is like like as far as what the lyrics are saying, I'm like I don't 100% know what you're talking about. Kind of have a vague idea, but vocally for sure, I feel
Hmm.
like her, yeah, like you just said, her range has definitely improved. She's got like she's got a different, slightly better quality to her voice. On I don't know if that's just her improving as a singer, maybe the software they're using to edit it, maybe a little bit of both. It sounded a
Hmm.
lot. I mean, maybe not a lot better, but it sounded noticeably better. I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the fact that they dropped a mid tempo track versus like a slower one or whatever. So
Yeah, because I'm
so
definitely going whenever we were doing the hybrid episode. Like the more up tempo songs were definitely, in general, the ones I liked more. I feel like.
oh yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with that. It was definitely nice to. I'm glad that they went with a, like you said, an up tempo. Might have been a little bored if it was more the slower, unless you just
Oh,
killed it singing wise.
exactly, exactly. Or if the composition was like so spectacular that like it
Right,
kind of
right,
makes
right.
up for like the lack of vocal performance. But I'm digging it. Like I said, it's still relatively new. It's one of those songs. It didn't immediately catch me, like if I'm being honest, but it's growing on me. So I think if I give it a couple more listens, I think it'll make it in my rotation. But I do like it. I don't dislike it, but I'm not like, oh my god, I gotta hear it. It's not like a Baby Keem song or whatever. So
Again,
it's a little bit
I
different.
think it sounds like you and me had a very, very similar experience with this. Vocally, I will say it caught me like my very first listen. I was like, okay, like I noticed all the things we just talked about with her voice and whatnot, and I was like, okay, this is really good. Production wise, it was like I wasn't like super paying attention to it the first like maybe two times, but then as I was listening to it like the third, fourth, and fifth time, I like really started to focus in on it, and like you said, I think it's grown on me for sure.
Hmm.
So more hybrids always fun. I'm happy
Oh
that
yeah.
they're coming out. And this song, along with another my last single, were very last minute additions because they were like, as far as I'm aware, they both came out like just a few days ago, right? As of the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
of this recording.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did you want to go and jump into that one, or you want to go continue going in order?
I mean, since I brought it up, we'll go a little out of order here for mine versus what's on the playlist.
Okay.
Yeah, the song that I added last minute was W.H.A.T, and I'm spelling it out because there's a space in between each letter, so I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be. And it seems to be an
What?
acronym for We're Hungry and Thirsty, and that is by Tech Nine, Kim Dracula, and Hush with all caps with a dollar sign as the S. I'm not super familiar with Kim Dracula or Hush. I don't know if you are at all.
I did a no, and I was curious because I listened to the song and it said Kim Dracula, and I was like, I
I
don't
googled Kim
hear.
Dracula, but
I did too.
I was like, I don't recognize any of your stuff that you're in. I don't recognize what
Yeah,
you look like. Like you're a new entity to me.
Definitely a new entity, but I believe they're part of a genre that I'm curious about called trap metal, which I haven't really got into
Mhm.
that yet. Because I do like metal, spoiler. But I haven't really gotten into the trap metal sound, which is one of the ones on our long list of stuff to get to eventually on the podcast. But yeah, I was definitely curious because like when I saw the name Kim, I was like, I'm hearing metal. I was like, either this chick has a really husky voice or that's not. I was confused. So I needed to see a visual representation. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. I think I have an idea what's going on here. But from my understanding, it seems like I hate to compare them to like Marilyn Manson, but that's the kind of the automatic vibe I got when I saw the
There was
picture.
definitely tones of that for sure. I had the same thought, so you're not wrong in that.
Okay.
I literally had the same thought, like, oh, this is like a little bit Marilyn Manson-y.
Yeah.
Um, but of course, Tech Nine was the main reason I picked this song. Just once again, perfectly demonstrating his influences of like rock and like how he's able to just hop on this metal track and not only because like at the beginning part he's kind of like I mean because he doesn't like full on rap until like the middle of the song, right? I don't know what you would. I guess it is still like a rap because it's still like a rhythm, rhyming wordplay at the beginning, but like his cadence is like
It's
more.
slower.
It's
It's
slower
slower,
and
slower and somber.
it follows like the heavy metal more, than
Hmm.
like once he like goes full on rapping, and even that's not like worldwide chopper level rapping, speed wise at least.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
um, I mean, I dug this track a lot. I was really mad that it like came out like 3 days before we were supposed to be recording this episode. So I was like, dang it. So I'm happy we got it in here. I was, again, I'm not like the biggest fan of metal, just like in general. There's not like a ton of metal that's just randomly popping up on my playlist, but I do enjoy it. It's one of those genres that like my dad's a huge metal fan. Grew up in like a guitarist's household where he was always hopping on his amp and blasting, like he just being there shredding the guitar.
Hmm.
Um, I enjoyed the like again that's I'm not super familiar with Kim Dracula and Hush. I'm not sure like where their parts like I wasn't sure how to differentiate like who was who on like near the end, but like whoever was doing the screamo part at the end, if that was Kim, was pretty phenomenal. I'm always impressed, which this will come up later on, spoilers, but I'm always impressed with people who can like do the screaming well because as someone who's seen
Yeah.
that behind the scenes, what that takes, because like
Hmm.
most people can scream and make it sound somewhat decently, but to be able to do that repeatedly over and over again and do that live and make it sound like the same every time, that's actually a skill set. I feel like a lot of people, like, if you're not in the metal community, you don't really listen to that type of music, you might not fully understand that, but it takes a lot of skill to do that. So once you're cognizant of that stuff like this is a good example of like someone doing that really well, I felt like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I jokingly try to do like a little screamo voice, but even with me joking, doing a screamo voice, I end up hurting myself somehow.
Yeah,
So I was like, so I have no idea how those people can
I couldn't
do
tell
it
you how.
consistently. It's
I
crazy.
have no idea how they do it, but I've seen people do it, and I've seen like that process of like them having to like do warm up. I mean, it's just like normal. So, like there's full on like warm up exercises to get their voice at that level and like not hurt themselves doing it because that's a tough to get that like raw scream. It's hell on your voice, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Unless you know what
absolutely.
you're doing.
Hmm. So speaking of screamo and being happy, let's talk about Matt Mason's "Get Happy."
I don't know if screamo necessarily applies to this one, but I guess there's a little bit of screaming in it.
Eh,
Um, This song is a new song. Just came out not too long ago. It was on my new release recommendations from YouTube
mhm.
past couple weeks. I'm a pretty decent Matt Maeson fan. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. You
Never heard
might
of
have
him.
heard some of his other songs just like on the radio, different places. Like he plays the cringe song.
Never heard of him.
What's another? Hallucinogenics is another popular song by him. Neither here nor there. I'm a pretty big fan. Most of his songs kind of sound like this one.
Hmm.
Kind of like a soulful vibe.
Yeah, it definitely has. I can't really like equate them, but yeah, definitely indie soul. Not quite grungy. I guess if I really want to call it as something, it'd be like a soulful grunge, if that's a thing.
Yeah, I
I
mean, it
guess.
definitely he has like a unique voice, I will say.
Yeah.
And this song, the subject matter is a little depressing. It seems to be about like he's dealing with, like, in the song he's dealing with like alcoholism and like
Yeah.
just the whole idea of like whenever you're going through something and you're like depressed or just mentally not in a great headspace. The idea of people telling you to just be happy
Yeah.
does like does you no good.
It
It's
really
like the
doesn't.
worst advice you could possibly get. And so this song is just, to me, it seems like it was, we had like a week to listen to it. So I didn't want to like hyper focus on one specific song, but to me, just listening to it, it was like kind of raging against that idea of
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, just the whole, oh, just be happy, just get happy and you'll be fine. It's like, no, I'm going through some shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let me work it out. Let me,
Ex-
it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be depressed for a minute and like work on myself and then like figure it out. Don't you can't just flip a switch and be happy. You gotta, it's a process.
Absolutely, and I love that song for that reason. Like
Same.
along with the production and everything and the vocals, it's still a good song regardless. But the subject matter of that in general, just let people process in their time. If there's like no self harm or anything like that, just like give me time to process this, and I'll figure it out. But it's such a good song, and yeah, never heard of him beforehand, but definitely this is like one of my. I mean, pretty much all these songs are gonna be in my rotation from now on, but but I like this one. Like you definitely came through. Thank you for putting me on to Matt Mason.
Well,
Basically,
this
is what
one
I'm
again.
saying.
This one was just, I was just because I don't know if he's come out with anything in like a few years, so it was really just fortuitous that he happened to come out with this single like right as I was looking for music for this episode.
Hmm.
Just as a big fan of his, so I'm also happy I got to show you him
Hmm.
just because I'm a big fan.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, he has some pretty good songs that are very much in the same like vein, like stylistically. So I might send those to you after
yeah,
once we're
definitely,
off air.
definitely, yeah. Send me some more. I'm definitely becoming a fan. I love this song.
So moving right on, I'm gonna move on. This is definitely one of the like kind of older hidden gems.
Really?
For me, I don't remember. I think the song came out in like 2018.
Oh wow. Okay.
But it's the song is Probably Up by Lawrence. Hold on one second. Let me just double check. 2018. So it's about 5 years old. This song, for honestly until somewhat recently, was kind of like one of the soundtracks of my life. I felt like,
Bro, same. So I'm so related to this song.
yeah, same, 100%. Because the whole song is like he's basically a night owl while other people are sleeping. He's working on his music and he's there first thing in the morning when the birds are getting up. He's going to bed. And the whole idea of like, no, I'm not lazy, I work on a different time frame than most other people. And as someone who is like very much just naturally a night owl, like if I didn't have to wake up early for work or anything, I would probably be up till like 3 4 in the morning and sleep till 10 11 12 in the afternoon every day. That's pretty much just all what this song is about. My
Hmm.
favorite line is like, screw the melatonin.
Hmm.
It's like, yes, just throw that in the trash. Stay
Exactly.
up. You'll be fine. But yeah,
Oh
so this
man.
this song is definitely one that's like randomly will come up on my mega playlist, and I'm always just like singing along to it just because I relate to it so much. And it's a pop and a half.
Absolutely. Like I definitely dug this song. The first time I heard it, I had a big old smile on my face when I heard this.
It's
And I
a
was like,
happy song too. Yeah.
it's a happy song. And then me knowing you, I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely one of his songs. And with me being a person that oscillates between being an early bird and a night owl, it's yeah. I can be up or I can be asleep. It all depends.
Yeah. Right.
So just like last night, I was up to 5 a.m. for no reason. But yeah, I definitely dug this song. It's definitely again another one that's added to my playlist. I've never heard of Lawrence before.
And I've really not. I think I've only listened to like maybe a few other of his songs. I really should like look him and just like spend a day just going through all of his music if it's like this, because this is just such a happy, like the beat is upbeat.
Mm.
I don't know. It's a good song, man.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
it's not like a great, like nothing to like. I don't think it like deserves like any like great awards or anything. But it's always a feel good song every time it comes up. It just puts me, like you said, it puts a smile on my face. Makes me reminisce about all the way too late into the nights I've had.
I mean, honestly, like. so many gems happen like at 3 o'clock in the morning. Just wake up and be like, "Oh, creative spark! Like let's get it." Or if you like stuck on a part on the game or something, you're just like, "Oh crap! Now I remember how to get past such and such part."
Mm-hmm.
So totally can relate to that. But let's switch over to the exact opposite of upbeat and happy. Let's go to Broski by Joyner
Joyner
Lucas.
Lucas. So real quick, I just want to say just a quick note. I think this is interesting just because Joyner Lucas has a song both or it has a song about Will Smith, and I feel does Will Smith feature on that song about Will Smith?
On the remix. On the
On the
remix.
remix. Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking about that earlier and I was like, is he I forgot to look it up before the episode, but I was like, is he on it?
Mm.
Whenever this song dropped a little while ago, Will Smith, like I think it was on Instagram, but he like posted out, "This is my favorite rapper," and was like, basically like just saying like, "Oh, this is a great song. There's like the best new song from my favorite rapper, or whatever." I just thought that was cool to see,
Hmm.
since Joyner Lucas has a song with him, like calling him out as one of his big influences and how much love he has for him and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And this was like Joyner Lucas did this song pre-slap. So this happened like before all of that mess happened. So and honestly, I still feel that Will Smith is one of the uh underappreciated
I mean,
veterans of hip hop,
he's for
but
sure one of the foundational like artists
yeah,
for modern hip hop, without a doubt.
absolutely.
Whether you like him or hate him, you can't deny that fact. I feel like you'd be
Exactly.
ridiculous to.
Yeah.
But back to this song, Broski.
Yeah. So this song I affectionately called it Stan 2.0
Mm.
because this song, man, when I listened to this song, I was like, okay, I'm vibing to it. And then, the song progresses. I was like, oh, okay. Okay. So it started off as a love letter, appreciation letter. And then all of a sudden, somebody had a bipolar moment and just like snapped like halfway in between the song. Like, I know everything about you. I know all the secrets you had. I know all the bitches you fucked. I'm just like, well, damn. I'm like, that just got super aggressive for no reason. And then he brings it right back around. He's like, okay, broski. Well, so if you want to hit me up with a few bucks, that'll be appreciated. I was
Well,
like,
it's one of those things where this as like a topic, right? It's nothing new. I feel like in rap or just in music in general, it's pretty often you hear songs where people talking about, oh, whenever I blew up, I realized I didn't have any real ones next to me. Everyone just wanted handouts, blah 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 blah. You hear it all the time, like, oh, I'm your cousin
mm-hmm.
from your mother's side twice removed. I need give me some money. You hear stuff like that in rap songs all the time. So like this concept is not new, but like most things Joyner Lucas does, his lyrical depth and just how many just like words he's able to fit in to like
Yeah,
get his point across, combined with what really made me pick this song, honestly, as I was listening to it, was the production underneath it. As
100%.
lyrical heavy as it is, dude, the ominous bass, and if you listen to it, I'm sure you noticed it, but whenever the broski switches from like giving
Yes.
him his big ups to trying to like tear him down,
Mm-hmm.
there's a very noticeable switch, and that
Yes.
bass comes in
Yes.
and it builds.
Yeah, it's like
It
super
builds
distorted and
super
angry
distorted, and it
sounding.
gets angry and angrier and angrier and just like more ominous and more just like heavy. And you feel, and to me, it made me feel whenever it was in that part of the song, like I was in a confrontation and like someone's yelling at me and like I'm like having to
Mm.
defend myself.
Yeah.
It's just for what he's talking about is like it's just such a perfect marriage of that with him again, just super lyrically dense, so many lines of so many bars of rap combined with that. It's kind of a simple beat when you
Hmm.
think about it, but it's so effective. I feel like I feel like it's more effective because it's simple.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a firm believer that at times less is more. So you don't have to have everything thrown in there, to make a great production. And then the fact being that he's able to carry it with like, how can I put it? Basically, like the subject matter, like you said, was is not uncommon, but the delivery of it and the execution of it kept me engaged throughout. Like there's not a part in a song where I'm just like, okay, hurry up and get to this part. No, I wanted to hear the whole story, and like
Hmm.
you feel you can feel the evolution of the story and the rage of Broski versus Joyner as he's interpreting it and all that stuff too. So yeah, man, like I said, stand 2.0.
It both opens and ends with like the I love you, broski. If I don't tell you, blah 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 blah. So like, not only do you have that switch as it moves from like that at the beginning into the tear down part, whatever you want to call the angry part of the song, it
Mm-hmm.
switches back right at the very end, which
Mm-hmm.
is just like, man, I love it.
Yeah.
Once I think it was on my second listen through, because the first time I was just like enraptured by the words, and on my second listen through, I like actually made a point to listen to the beat, and that's whenever I noticed it. It just like really perfected the song for me. I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this song is definitely like a thin line between love and hate, but like a hip hop version of it, more or less. Because it's just like, do you can switch on a dime, family or not, and you've known this person ever since y'all was like kids, and man, people can switch on a dime, especially when there's success involved. So,
Yeah. I will say this isn't necessarily a lot of Joyner songs just because they're so dense. I don't know another way to say it beyond dense.
mhm.
Um, I don't know if this is necessarily a song I'll be like every time it pops up in my playlist, I'll be listening to it. I feel like it's now that I've listened to it several times, I'll probably need to be kind of in the mood for it. But
Yeah,
again, it's not necessarily a mark against the song, just more the subject matter. I don't want to necessarily feel riled up and anxious and angry and attacked all at once all the
Exactly,
time.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. We definitely don't want angry Brandon.
No.
No. So, all right. Well, before we jump into our albums, let's take a quick little break, and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back.
We're
So
back.
this time around, we don't want to deal with an angry Brandon, but we don't want to deal with an angry Terrio either. Let's talk about Periphery.
Periphery 5. The full
Periphery
album,
5.
which is DJ
Gent.
Ent,
Nah,
DJent.
not just gent.
Gent is not a
Yeah.
genre, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Is the
Yes.
title, full title.
Yeah.
This okay, so as we alluded to earlier, this is a very heavy metal album from top to
Yes.
bottom.
Yes.
A lot of heavy
Progressive metal.
drums, a lot of heavy screaming mixed with some pretty great vocals. This was
Mm-hmm.
definitely like even more so than Kim Dracula or Hush, whoever it was on the What song with Tech Nine.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely tell just throughout the entire album. I think there's only like maybe one or two songs where it's like they don't really have a lot of screaming. Just
Mm-hmm.
that they again, just to be able to bounce back and forth. Just up top, that was one of the things that impressed me the most was the dipping into screaming, into the singing, into the screaming, into the singing on any given song. And some of these songs are like 7, 8. I think there's like one that's like 12 minutes or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of time for that.
Absolutely. And to make it even more impressive, how you said how to keep going back and forth between screamo and just singing and screaming and singing. There's only one lead vocalist. I thought it was
I
two.
was gonna say I thought there was two as well. I actually looked. This was one of the things I looked up, and I was like, yeah, it is one person,
Yep,
just the
Spencer.
one dude, and yeah, because it is somewhat often I feel like you have like maybe because I've seen this personally like in real life where it might be like the bassist comes in and does the screamo parts, or
Mm-hmm.
the guitarist or like someone else does the screamo parts while the lead singer just kind of like hangs back during those parts.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not the case here. The dude is doing all of it, which is just man, it's hella impressive. I can't stress that enough. How hard it is to do that on a song. And, like
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going out and they're performing these songs. I mean, this is a new album, so maybe not performing them yet, but whenever they're touring for this album, I'm sure they're going to be performing these songs live, and just being able to do that, especially in a live setting, is going to be it's going to blow some people away.
Yeah, so I kind of went down a little interview rabbit hole with them and like a little behind the scenes thing because like again I've listened to Periphery on and off over the years. I listened to I think Periphery 2 was like the my one of the albums I listened to. Them and Perfect Circle. I got into both of them around the same time, and I never really saw a music video for them, nor have I really like looked up the band members. I just listened to the music, and that was that. So in my head canon, I was like, okay, they got two singers. They got the guy that has the soft vocals, then they got the screaming guy, and then they just alternate back and forth.
Because they do not necessarily like the quality of the voice does not lead you to believe it's the same guy as well.
Yeah, and then just the overlapping and everything else with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, okay, it has to be two people. But then I actually saw him do like a studio session, and he was literally in front of the microphone going back and forth between and like going back and forth. So I'm just like, I don't know how what like that was. Yeah, yeah. So this album I listened to so I found out Periphery had a new album. I was like, okay, cool, I'll check it out. So I was listening to the first song. I listened to Wildfire.
Which was one of my favorites, I will say, on the whole album.
100%. 100%.
Like it starts this whole album just that's a great note to start with. But
It just starts with that, and then in the middle of it, because I'm listening to it while doing other things, and then they just see. Okay, so it's so many things I want to talk about. Let me try to get my thoughts together. Okay, so they're technically classified as they call themselves progressive metal. That's what they go
there's
with.
so many subgenres of metal nowadays, and as someone who's not a huge fan of metal, I don't necessarily know where those lines are drawn in the sand. So if
It,
they call themselves progressive metal, I'm just gonna say okay.
yeah, I'm definitely fine with that, and it makes sense because progressive metal is basically what the one of the guitarists, I think his name is Misha, I think. Make sure I got that correct. Yeah, Misha. He was like, "Yeah, we're progressive metal, so we basically can just do whatever we want creatively. We're not pigeonholed into whatever." But then this quote unquote new subgenre, spelled DJent, pronounced gent, came along and they threw them into that category, and they're like, "We're not gent." So basically,
So that's the meaning of okay. That's the meaning of
yes,
the album title.
exactly. So they're like, no, we're not part of this because like a lot of the metal fans don't like being thrown into gent, and some people say the gent genre ruined metal. So basically, the gross simplification of gent is basically when the guitar chord is basically following the lyrics verbatim. So instead of going like I'm going to the store. So they threw Periphery in that, saying that like, oh well, you guys are basically the founders of it, and they're like, no, we're not. Like, I did it as a joke, making fun of it because for whatever reason, but the internet culture deemed it to be true, so that's why they kind of did like a big f you situation. Why am I censoring myself? They did a big fuck you to everybody's like, hey, gent is not a real thing. This is not a real genre. Don't put us in this. So um, that being said, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, Wildfire. I'm listening to the song. I'm enjoying it, and then I just love the fact how this album goes back and forth between softness and aggressiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And right in the middle of the song, it literally goes into like a jazz solo, elevator music kind of situation. So I'm listening to the song, and I'm just like, is this the same song? I was like, cause I'm thinking an ad popped up or something. And I was just like, I know I'm paying for premium. Like, what's going on? I did the song picks right back up, and I was like, oh, okay, right
And
back into it.
it's kind of interesting because I feel like the album as a whole also does a pretty similar thing,
Oh yeah,
where
almost
like you
every
have,
song.
yeah, but I mean you also have like right in the middle you have Silhouette, which I think, in my
Yes,
opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is like the softest
it
song. I think it
is.
has like the lead. I don't even remember if this has any screamo. If it does, it has very
No,
minimal screamo. It
no,
doesn't
no
have any, right?
screaming.
Okay, yeah,
No,
that's what
no.
I was
It's just
thinking.
yeah, it's very
Um,
soft, very ballady, more poppy kind of sound, so to speak.
but then
Honestly,
it comes back in with like Zagreus and Dying Star, and like those again. A lot of these songs do have like that in the song itself, where it kind of dips between the soft and the heavy or whatever. But like I don't
hmm
know, I feel like just the album itself somewhat also follows that, which is interesting. I didn't really think about it that way until you just said it.
yeah, absolutely. And to me, this is like not to keep harking back to hybrid, but this is like it reminds me of hybrid when it comes to like the orchestration and like how each song kind of blends into one another. So I definitely enjoyed that part of it. My favorite song off this whole album, which I've listened to at least 27,000 times, was Wax Wings. I love Wax Wings.
Wax Wings,
Like
it's
that
it's
last
up
that
there.
last note, that last note gets me every time. Like there's like the one thing about metal and rock, along with like just good singing in general, when there's like when there's enough passion in the vocal, it gives me chills. So like the song Wax Wings itself is aggressive or whatever, but then towards the end of the song it kind of mellows out.
Hmm.
But the passion is there, and then he comes in with that scream at the end, and it just fades in with the orchestration and it just like takes you out, and just basically saying like the machines are turning me. I'm just like, ugh. It gets me every time, dude. Every time, like especially when I get to that part. It's like a 7 minute song, but I promise you, I can listen to that song on repeat at least five or six
Well,
times in a
that's
row.
definitely a point I would like to point out. It's just like okay, so like the first song, Wildfire, is like right at 7 minutes. Then the next one is like 8 minutes, Atropos. Then Wax Wings is 7.5. Then you have several that's like 4 to 5 minutes ish. and then like the last few is like 8, 12, and 11 minutes.
Yeah.
Normally, if I was listening to an album and there was a bunch of 7 and 8, 11 and 12-minute songs, right, I would be like rolling my eyes and being like, Terrio, the hell is wrong with you? Why would you make me listen to this? I did not feel that way with these, just because in each given song there's so much variation. It's not just really, they don't have that screamer at the beginning. It's just that for 8 minutes. Like there's so much variation in the compositions coming in and like changing
Hmm.
it up, and it keeps it fresh. Like each song, I never felt bored by the song, which
Yeah.
again, that's like a real testament to their skills as like songwriters and music composers to be able to do that for. Because like Dracula Gross, the second to last is 12, almost 12
Oh.
and a half minutes, dude. And like there were definitely times where I would be like, not like is this song over, like I'm done with it to be over, but like is this song still going? Because like just because it has so many like different parts, I'm like, is this a new song? Is this like, does this fade into the next song? Especially like the first couple of times where I wasn't like super paying attention to the times and wasn't super familiar with the songs yet. That definitely threw me off. Where I was like, this has to be a different song. Oh nope, I'm 7 minutes into this 12-minute song now. Okay, keep going. It's great. I like it. It takes, again, it just takes, I feel like, a very skillful group to be able to pull that off and not have the listener be bored in the middle of an 8-minute song.
Absolutely. So yeah, so like like I said, the composition, the structure, it definitely keeps it interesting, and you hit the nail right on the head with that. You can listen to a 12-minute song, and you'll probably feel like you listen to 5 different songs, and it's still the
Right.
same song. And but it all goes together. It's not jarring. It's
Well,
like a
that's if
seamless
you pull up.
experience.
I'm someone who I can enjoy screamo, but I can never understand what they're saying. So I definitely like pull up the lyrics, but like lyrically, if you're able to like parse the lyrics, it is kind of like really tie most of the songs like together. I feel like helps a
Yeah.
lot. But I mean, also just song wise too. It's not like it's like completely random how they layer the different sounds. Like they do connect, but
Yeah. So, fun fact that I discovered about the group. So the vocalist, the main vocalist Spencer, he wasn't the original vocalist of the group. So he came in like maybe like the second or third album is when he joined the group, but he's been with them ever since. But the band was actually founded by the guitarist Misha, and Misha is actually like Indian African, so he's like from like an island outside of like Madagascar.
really,
Yeah. So I was like, huh, this is pretty dope. So just to show, you can't really judge a book by its cover. It's like, oh wow, this dude that's technically from Africa is rocking out with Periphery in the States. So it's
okay.
pretty dope.
That is pretty dope. I'd say that's one of those things I would have never known. As a
Oh yeah.
fun, that is the definition of a fun fact, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I mean, are we moving on to the next one, or do we have any more thoughts on Periphery? I would just like to say I've heard of Periphery, but I've never really listened to them before
Hmm.
this. Just
Hmm.
again, my own biases, I guess, or my own typical listening style sounds that I typically listen to. Yeah, man, I think I might go back and check out Periphery 1 through 4 now.
Yeah, definitely. I will recommend Scarlet and Have a Blast. Those two are like really good songs. And
Okay.
those were the two songs that I heard the first time around. And I was like, huh, it's pretty dope how they got two singers going back and forth. And then I come to find out now there's one person the whole time. So Spencer was part of the group at that point as well. So it was just really dope. And that, again, I had that same experience because they did this back then too, to where like you're listening to a song, you're thinking that the song is over because it transitioned, but it's still part of the same song. So I just love the composition of it. It doesn't get stagnant. It's not a whole bunch of screaming the entire time. There's like a balance between the screaming and then the
Yeah.
actual singing, and the guy is good at both. So it's like it's
Again,
phenomenal.
I feel like we can't overstate that enough. Just how incredibly talented Spencer, you said his name
Yeah.
was.
Hmm.
Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
listening to Spencer, man, you need to like pay. If you had a vocal coach, you need to like give him a promotion or something because he taught you right. If this is his natural talent, I don't know what to
Man.
say beyond you lucky bastard.
Exactly. How dare you? So there's some times where you can call a Uber or call a Lyft, but sometimes you need a taxi. And sometimes you need a moon taxi. So
What a great segue.
yeah, to go for it, man.
So my album. was by Moon Taxi. That's the artist, and it's their seventh studio album.
Wow.
Set Yourself Free. They're an indie rock group in out of Nashville, I believe. If I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, I'm like 95% sure it's Nashville. Um, this was one of I was trying really hard to find an album, and there was like 3 or 4 groups that had an album come out within the last year. And this was one of them. This album actually just came out last month,
Hmm.
so that's it's actually like pretty recent. I it was the last album like out of that like group of like 4 or 5 or whatever that I found. Like I discovered like, oh man, Moon Taxi has a new album, and I'd already like kind of listened through a few of the other albums and was like, I was like kind of rushing myself, like I gotta get this album, gotta get these picks in. And then I found this album and I was like, all right, I gotta listen to at least a few of them. So I listened to like the first, I think 3 or 4, and I was like, all right, I'm submitting it. I'll listen to the rest for the episode. So I didn't listen to most of these before I'd already submitted it, and we were like watching or like listening it to it for this episode.
Wow.
But I stand by it, just because I've been a huge Moon Taxi fan for several years now. Like the last 3 albums before this one have all had a lot of bangers on it. In my opinion, they're a really solid indie rock group. Um, I think one of my favorite things is just his singing voice has this like, I don't even, again, just my lack of like technical musical knowledge, but I don't know what you would classify his voice as, but just the tone of his voice is just like kind of hypnotic to me in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you said that they're from Nashville, that explains so much about their sound. I don't know anything about them at all. This is my first time ever hearing Moon Taxi, so I had no clue who they were or what. I didn't know what to expect. Honestly, I had no idea. So when I went into this, it was like, okay, I just let it play through. And after all of that screamo and uh like going between the screaming and the singing, and then the last song from the Periphery album kind of fading out with the long instrumentation, then this album started, and it perfectly like segues right into that album. And I'm listening to it. I was like, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, dang, Periphery kind of got they kind of switch it up a little bit,
Well, because
like
the
a
first
lot.
song on the album it doesn't have any singing; it is just instrumental, which is a
Yeah,
pretty good first song. I feel like it really sets the tone, kind of. Um,
absolutely,
it's definitely a
absolutely,
different vibe, completely a different vibe from Periphery.
exactly.
Um, I will say, like genre or maybe subgenre wise, it seems like they kind of bounce around a little bit on this album. I mean, it
Oh
all
yeah,
has like the indie rock feel, but there's definitely some of it is more a little bit more soulful. Some of it's a little bit more like folksy. Some of it's a little bit more like almost country esque. There's a little bit of ska
ska.
in there.
Yeah, yeah,
It definitely bounces around a bit, which I don't know, kept me on my toes. I feel like listening through the whole album, kind of kept me interested.
yeah. I don't know anything about this band. I don't know anything about their music at all. But I will say, I don't know anything about their previous albums at all. But I am a fan. This is like this is my top pick. Like out this whole list, I love this album.
So
It's
I
such
would
a
just want
good
to
album.
say real quick, I also really love the album, but it makes me happy that you say that because once we're off the air, I got to share one of their older albums with you because this is not my favorite album of theirs.
Really.
Surprisingly, as good as this album is, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this album does seem a little bit more tighter because like my
Mm-hmm.
favorite album is like I think 3 albums prior than this one. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, just as times went on, they've gotten better as musicians and artists and whatnot. But how do I want to say it? The like style of music they're playing necessarily is more like for the entire album we're consistent on the other album. But again, like this album is like right up there next to it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just I don't even know. There's so many good things. The singing is great. The all of the production and the instrumentation is like so tight. I feel like and like really plays well. Like there's no like missed notes or like useless notes or anything like that. Like it's all it's just a nice tight indie rock album, man. That like is just fun.
It's a good indie rock album. It's a good, almost I want to say a feel good album. Like it, you just put it on and you just really just kind of just vibe out. Like you said, the first song "Walk Out" is like just pure instrumentation, and they're kind of just doing a whole jam session. Love it. Some of the other songs that really stood out to me was "Step Into the Light." That one, that one kind of just like when you said soul, I was like, okay, okay, like
That one and Classics, I think, were two of my favorites off the album.
yeah, it definitely gave me like not to make myself sound older than I already am, but it kind of gave me like a little bit of Hall and Oates vibe, like that Blue Eyed
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Soul
yeah. No,
that
for
they.
sure.
So and I was just like, okay, this is dope. I was digging that. My favorite song at the is it's probably like the last song, honestly. The Summer Emotion.
Summer Motion. I like
Yeah,
the last three songs. I really like
I
Dream Our Life
agree.
Away, Flipping Channels, and Summer Motion. I was just like, whenever it was getting to the end of the playlist and those three came on back to back to back, I was just like jamming out in my car or
Absolutely.
like dancing around my house with an earbud in whenever it came to those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now I did want to ask you this one. So I feel like I've heard Evergreen somewhere before. Is that like a cover? A cover of another country
I had a
song?
similar thought. I feel like it might be, but I also
Okay.
didn't know and I didn't think to look it up. I did have there was more of like a like kind of back of my mind as I was listening to it type deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because definitely sounded like some country song I was forced to hear while working retail, like in the
Right?
background or something. So I was just like, I said, this sounds vaguely familiar. And like I didn't bother looking it up either, but because I
Yeah, I'm
mean,
not sure. That one's a little bit more. I don't know.
this more country. It's definitely more
It's
country
that was for
or
sure. Yeah,
folksy
one
or
of the
whatever.
more folksy country style. But there's also, the name of the album is Set Yourself Free, and the second song on the album is Set Yourself Free. And I feel like I read an interview with them, like whenever the album first came out last month, and they were kind of talking about why they picked that as like the album title, because that was kind of like the whole like theme that they really wanted to stress, that like what they sing about in the song Set Yourself Free, where it's like, will you set yourself free, and like basically we just like it's I think it's talking about like a trust fall in the song
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, will you fall and like
Oh yeah, that one song, "Fall into My Arms" or something like that,
yeah,
or
yeah,
what's it
yeah.
call? Yeah, such and
It's
such.
set
Yeah.
yourself free, but
Oh
yeah, it says something like that. I'd have
yeah,
to
"Fall Back into Me" or something like that.
fall back into me. It doesn't have the lyrics on YouTube, so I can't pull it up right now.
Oh wow,
But yeah,
wow.
so like they talked about how like that was like, I think that was one of the first songs they said they wrote for the album, and like that just whole idea of like you're not, it's sad and lonely to try and go through life and do all these things and try to accomplish all these things by yourself.
Yeah,
It's not only is it like more beneficial to you to rely and trust in others to like help you out when things are rough, but it's also like just like positive for like whatever you're trying to make. It's it's positive mentally. It's positive. It's just you don't need to go through life alone, right? Essentially, and that's that whole idea. It's like you said, it's a very the way they approach it is very kind of upbeat and like a positive like, because you could, I feel like, tackle that same subject but be more like depressing about it.
yeah, yeah,
But they
definitely.
don't do that, which this is just not their vibe to be kind of most of their music is kind of upbeat and like get you kind of bopping along. And I will say I've been fans of these guys for like going on a decade at this point. Back
Mm-hmm.
whenever they only had like an album or two out.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my friends, like whenever I was in my first apartment, I remember we would use Pandora as our music player. And
Oh
you
wow.
could just, I don't know if you know this, but if you have a playlist on Pandora and you play it long enough, it will eventually loop back around.
Oh wow.
And we would listen to the Moon Taxi playlist like so long just throughout the entire day that we would notice whenever it would loop back around and start saying playing the exact same songs again.
Wow.
So yeah,
So
I've been a huge fan of them for a while.
wow. So y'all actually finished Pandora and started over.
We
Like
finished Pandora. Yeah. That's one way to
that is
put it.
amazing. That's amazing.
So yeah, and,
Yeah.
and I've literally loved every album they've come out with since. In my opinion, like if you go back and listen to any of their other albums, they're all great. This one is just the most recent, so that's what we're talking about. It just came out. Want to give them some love.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm a new fan. Like I said, I've never heard of them. I never really checked for them. I didn't know they even existed. But like I said,
They're
I'm
still very small. Like I was looking it up. They really have not gotten a lot of reach for them to have like such, in my
so many
opinion,
albums
such
out there.
so many. I mean, 7 albums. That's a pretty decent amount. And again, like there's been a solid progression you can notice on like how tight their compositions and just their musical talents are over the years. Like I don't know. I'm hoping maybe with our help they can blow up a little bit more because they deserve it. And they
Absolutely.
seem like from the few interviews I've read and like watching them or whatever, they seem like just really solid, just good old dudes,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is always
I
nice.
I'm definitely gonna check them out and definitely send me those albums that you think is better than this one because, like I said, this is a good album. Like, there's no reason to skip any song. Like between Periphery and this album, there's no reason to skip. Honestly, there's no reason to skip any song on this playlist.
There's not.
Period.
There's not.
Yeah, like
Um,
everything is great.
since I've talked about it, hold on. Let me go to their albums and I'll tell you which one it is. Okay, it's their album from 2015, Daybreaker, is I
Okay.
think my favorite. But
Okay.
again, there's two albums in between that one and Set Yourself Free. They're also great. There's several songs on there that are from both of those albums that are still in my rotation today. Um, you really can't go wrong. Just listen to all of them. But if you're looking for 1 to 2 albums to listen to, the new one and Daybreaker from 2015 are the two I'd recommend.
Alrighty. I just added it to my library. I'm definitely gonna listen to them.
Sweet. Well, okay. I think that about wraps it up. I believe, unless there's anything else.
No, I'm just I'm actually speechless. Like the more I think about this playlist, just the range and the variety that we have, and just the level of skill that all these artists and bands show. It just I just kind of I'm kind of having a moment where I'm kind of like just stepping back and being like, God, music is so awesome.
Music is really, man. I had a similar feeling whenever I first was like flipping through it and like my first full listen through it. Just such we did a really good job. I'm gonna pat ourselves on the back
Damn
with
right.
this week for this one because like you said, yeah, just such a wide variety. Every genre, every style is kind of different for from song to song and or album to album, but they're all so great.
Yeah,
Like all
absolutely.
like you said, all of these, none of these deserve to be skipped. At least if it's like your first time listening to them, first like 10 times listening to them, they don't deserve to be skipped.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, man, we did a stellar job this week. We
I
really
think
did.
so too. Damn right. Well, if you think we did a great job, feel free to hit us up on all the things. You can
All
catch
the
us
things.
at you can catch us at afterlistenpod.com. All of our socials are on there. We're at afterlistenpod on Twitter, sorta, not really, kind of. We're on Instagram. We're kind of sorta on Threads. Still trying to figure all this stuff out. Either way, however you want to reach us, just reach out to us, and
Yeah,
you'll get a response from us. We want to hear from you. Um, yeah, just go to the website and check out the previous episodes and previous playlists. Keep on
yeah.
listening.
Keep on listening. Bye.
Bye.